Welcome to This Week in Sports with DeAngelo Richardson. DeAngelo Richardson is a personal trainer, fitness influencer, and athlete. Not to mention, he has an encyclopedic knowledge of sports. Each week, DeAngelo will break down and explain some of the most intriguing sports stories of the week. From basketball to football, from soccer to hockey, baseball to Formula One, D covers it all. Be in the know now. I'm Dave Liss, D's sidekick. In this episode, D will discuss COVID protocols in the NFL, explain the current NFL playoff situation, and how NFL teams with losing records lead their divisions. D will opine on the boxing matches or spectacles with Jake and Logan Paul, and Logan Paul's upcoming fight with Floyd Mayweather. He will give his thoughts on the passing of soccer legend Diego Maradona, tell you the most underreported sports stories of the week, and give you his thoughts on the biggest health and fitness trends going into a COVID-filled holiday season. D, what is the current situation with COVID and COVID protocols in the NFL?
Thank you, Dave, for the introduction. Let's get right into it. A couple weeks ago, the league had probably its most severe case of COVID breakout with the Baltimore Ravens when they had basically over half of their roster either with COVID or in close contact, in which case you're put on a reserved/COVID list, which means you can't play for at least 10 days and you have to be negative for, I think, 3 tests in a row before you can get back into the facility. So it's just a upheaval. And what that issue caused was that the Ravens were supposed to play on Thanksgiving Day. They had their first positive test, I believe, Sunday before Thanksgiving. Still let the players in the building, and then come to find out that there was an outbreak in the building. So I had to move that game from Thursday. Still had positive tests because they tried to move it to the next Sunday. More positive tests. Then they had to move it until to Tuesday. And even heading into the game they played a couple of weeks ago, Tuesday, there was still positive tests. So I think it was over half the roster. I think 16 starters. So they had to play against the Pittsburgh Steelers, short over half their players. And then from Tuesday to last Monday they played Wednesday, excuse me. They played again with about 8 starters out. And it wasn't until their game last night, which was Monday night, December 14th, that they had most of their players back. Only this time, only 3 people were on the reserve list. So what the whole situation led to was a bunch of upheaval in rescheduling games because of that outbreak. And the NFL's goal is to get all games played in a 17-week season and to avoid adding an 18th week because that would cut into the playoffs, right? And so, considering what happened with the Ravens, the league is considering its most dramatic action to prevent such outbreaks in the postseason, to postpone games and get off schedule with the Super Bowl in February, the beginning of February. So the NFL officials are actively discussing creating local bubbles for the 14 or 16 teams that make the playoffs, which means they isolate all personnel in hotels, except going to and from the team facility, and then strictly enforcing limitation on who is permitted inside and allowed to interact with players, coaches, or support staff. But no final decision has been made. The players union will have to sign off, and there are downsides to the bubble. No family will be allowed throughout the rest of the season into the playoffs. And also they will have to take about a week to establish that everyone has gone through COVID-19 testing and other protocols. And there will still be people coming and going into the bubble. And so if someone tests positive inside the bubble, the possibility of an outbreak can increase more dramatically than they would have if they were still at their own homes. So there's a lot of talk about what they might do, but they've been on track so far. It's going into week 15, which means they have about 3 more weeks to get through the regular season. If they can do that, then we'll see what happens with the playoffs.
Tell us about the NFL playoffs situation. How are teams with losing records leading their divisions going into the playoffs?
Well, I answer that last question first, and the Washington football team is leading the NFC East. There's four divisions in each conference. There's two conferences, the NFC conference and the AFC conference. And then within those conferences, there's four divisions each. And so the way it works is that each division gets an automatic home playoff game um, for whoever team wins the division. So in this case, the Washington football team is in the NFC East, and this year the NFC East has, has had a troubled season, let's say the least. No winning teams. The closest is the Washington football team, who are at 6-7, and that's because they went on a 4-game win streak to get to 6-7. So even though they have a losing record, the division winners again are guaranteed a home playoff game, and a losing record, or even an 800 record, which would be 8-8 or so, would be good enough for Washington to make the playoffs. Although I should say it's important to note that the last couple of weeks, the NFC East has found a 9-6 record as a division in total, which is the best record of any division over that same time span. So I would say things are looking up. But in the general picture, as Week 14 comes to a close, there's a little bit more clarity with just 3 games left in the regular season. A big change in the NFL playoff picture this year is that only one team from each conference gets a first-round bye. Before, it was the top 2 teams in each conference get a round bye. And it's important because teams with a first-round bye, you make the Super Bowl about 80% of the time. The last time a first-round team or a wild card team, as the NFL puts it, has made the Super Bowl was 2012 when the Ravens did it. So right now, the Kansas City Chiefs, the defending Super Bowl champions, are number 1 seed in the AFC, 12-1, while the Green Bay Packers are the top seed in the NFC at 10-3.
Recently, basketball great was knocked out by Jake Paul the same night Mike Tyson had a draw with Roy Jones Jr. in the highest grossing pay-per-view event of 2020. Logan Paul will soon fight undefeated boxing champ Floyd Mayweather. What is going on with all of this?
Well, what's going on is that money is to be made. Like you said, the bout with Mike Tyson, Roy Jones Jr., it is what it is. We were starving for some type of sport. And then obviously you having greats like Mike Tyson, one of the greatest heavyweights ever. And with Roy Jones, I mean, people are going to see it even though they're 50-year-old men. People want to see these old men fight. And they did. They got a bunch of money for it, a bunch of pay-per-view buys. And so, even though Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. is what brought people there, what was talked about was Nate Robinson, former basketball player, was knocked out by Jake Paul, YouTube star. And just if you're on social media, hopefully you saw all the memes of Nate Robinson being knocked out and laying on the floor unconscious for a few seconds. It got the story. It got people talking. And so now his brother, Logan Paul, who's another YouTube star, is going to fight for Mayweather in February 20th, I think, in 2021, I should say. And I would say biggest reason they're doing this is for money. It's expected to put up some big pay-per-view numbers. Both of the fighters will reportedly see a percentage of that pay-per-view money. And the latest rumors say that Mayweather will probably see more of that. Makes sense because he's a bigger name. He's a 50-0 boxer, retired undefeated. And I believe what his report is Mayweather will be paid a guaranteed $5 million up front, as well as 50% of all pay-per-view sales, while Logan Paul will be paid $200,000 up front and make 5% of all of the pay-per-view sales. So, I mean, really it comes down to is that they're doing this for money, and people are going to buy. So I think it's a good play on their part.
Amazing. DeAngelo, can you give listeners your thoughts on the passing of Diego Maradona and his contribution to global soccer?
Yeah. So I'm a couple of weeks late on this, but death of Diego Maradona at the age of 60 sent a lot of sadness throughout the world. While also allow people to kind of have memories that flood back about why he will go down as one of the greatest players in the history of the game. To a lot of people, he may be the greatest. That's subjective, but it can't be stated about um, the impact he's had on soccer or football globally. The age-old debate of who was better, Maradona or Pele, kind of rumbles on in the contrast of Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo having that same um, comparison. But people will talk about Diego Maradona 150 years from now because of the way he played the game. He was strong, skillful, and ruthless. His character on and off the pitch made his legend even greater. Some could say that's probably a detriment to him with his transgressions and legal and drug problems. But he was a skill as far as a player. His skill transcended generations. He was a god among men for many around the world, and even if you didn't love him, you're just gonna help but watch him. Stadiums have and will be named after him. Statues will be erected in his honor. His legacy is one of the greatest to secure. He was a prime example of a rags-to-riches story from a very poor boy in Buenos Aires who allowed kids around the world to dream they could reach heights like his, no matter where they came from. The way he played the game brought so much joy, along with winning trophies for club and country, and his skill won him the hearts of anyone who loves the beautiful game. His legacy is one that has inspired Messi and millions of others to dare to dream they can replicate success, and do it with style. So rest in peace to Diego Maradona.
What are the most underreported stories in sports this week?
I don't think it's underreported, but I did want to talk about this. I don't know how many people actually know about this. Keontae Johnson, who is a star forward for Florida Gators college basketball team, this weekend he collapsed on the court coming out of a timeout, hitting the ground face first on the hardwood floor of Florida State in their arena. And it brought back memories of Hank Gathers back in 1990, who was a great college basketball player. He collapsed mid-game, and then he was taken to the hospital but pronounced dead at the age of 23 with a fatal heart condition. Keontae Johnson, they stopped the game, obviously. They rushed him to a local hospital in Tallahassee, Florida. He's in critical condition, but stable condition as of December 15th. But there's a lot of questions left. And one of the questions that I can't help but ask was, it came out after the fact that the Florida basketball team, most of their players had COVID earlier this year. And obviously there's a lot of unknowns about what the long-term effects of COVID is. And you can't help but wonder, COVID has been linked to myocarditis, which is a heart condition that gets exacerbated by having COVID. And we don't know the specifics yet as of December 15th, but it's hard not to wonder if that has something to do with it, if his bout with COVID may have led to a heart issue that, led to him collapsing face first into the floor this past weekend. So obviously prayers up to Keontae Johnson. Hopefully he recovers. But this is just one of the things that this COVID-filled year has brought on for us to question these athletes and if they should be even playing these games.
Wow, tragic story. What health and fitness trends are you thinking about most going into the Christmas holidays?
So I wanted to say this. It's not so much a fitness trend, but more so just nutrition wise and health wise. A lot of people worry about maybe eating too much over the holidays. And I just want to let people know that it's okay to eat what you want. I don't believe in restricting yourself. And I think you should enjoy, especially this year, enjoy company if you're doing it in a safe way. Enjoy the food that you want to eat. Don't worry about counting calories or macros. Just enjoy yourself. Eat what you want to eat. You can always get back on track, the following day, the following week, whatever your schedule is. But I really want to encourage people just to kind of have fun. Don't overthink it. Don't worry about if I eat this, I'm gonna gain 5 pounds, or I can't go over this threshold of calorie counting. I just think you deserve to enjoy yourself, and I believe that we all should this holiday season, whether you celebrate Christmas or Hanukkah or whatever you celebrate. I think we just need to sit back and just kind of relax and not stress over things that don't deserve our stress right now. So have fun, enjoy all the food that you can, and be safe. Dave, that's all I got. Back to you.
Dee, thank you very much. And thank you for listening. Please contact Dave at davidmliss@gmail.com to let us know what you'd like to learn about with sports news and your audio health and fitness needs.